You would not let a stranger walk into your home every morning, sit down at your kitchen table, and spend an hour telling you what to think about, what to worry about, who to compare yourself to, what kind of life counts as a good one. You would ask them to leave.
And yet, every morning, that is more or less what happens. The feed opens, and for the next 20, 40, 60 minutes, before you've eaten, before you've spoken to anyone you love, before the day has had a chance to be yours, a system built by people you have never met is deciding what your mind will hold. Not maliciously. There's no villain in this story. Just an optimization function running quietly, doing exactly what it was designed to do. Maximize the time you spend inside it. And it is very good at its job.
The last two videos in this series were about devices, the smartphone, the flip phone, the hardware we carry, and what it does to us. This one is about something different.
Because the device is just the delivery mechanism. The real question is what's being delivered and who decided. Your feed is, in the most literal sense, a curated exhibition of the world. It shows you a version of reality, which conflicts matter, which bodies are desirable, which ideas are spreading, which lives are worth living, assembled not by an editor with values, not by a librarian with judgment, but by an algorithm with a single directive: keep you engaged.
Engagement, it turns out, has a signature: outrage, anxiety, envy, validation. These are the emotional states that keep a finger scrolling, that make the brain unwilling to look away. They are not, for the most part, the emotional states that make a life feel well-lived. The researcher Jonathan Haidt has spent years studying what this steady diet of algorithmically amplified emotion does to us collectively, the way it quietly reshapes what feels true, what feels threatening, what feels normal. The findings are not reassuring. But here is what interests me today, which is smaller and more personal than collective trends. What is it doing to you, to the specific texture of your specific days, to the quality of the attention you bring to the people and ideas you actually care about? That question deserves an honest answer, and the honest answer, for most of us, is more than we'd like to admit. There are 3 costs I want to name, because naming them is the first step to taking them seriously. The first is ambient tone. Your feed sets the emotional weather of your inner life, whether you're aware of it or not. A feed heavy with conflict, crisis, and performative suffering creates a background hum of low-grade anxiety that follows you off the screen, into meals, into conversations, into the quiet moments before sleep. You're not thinking about the feed, but the feed has already done its work. The second is the distortion of comparison. Every platform is, among other things, a highlights reel. You see the achievement without the years of failure, the relationship without the ordinary Tuesday, the body without the obsession it required. Your brain, which evolved to benchmark itself against the small community it lived inside, tries to run this comparison anyway, against a curated image, and quietly concludes it is behind. The third cost is the one I find most troubling: the narrowing of what you find interesting. An algorithm that shows you more of what you've already engaged with is an algorithm that is slowly, politely making you smaller, more predictable, less curious. You stop encountering the idea from the field you never expected to care about, the person whose thinking genuinely challenges yours, the beautiful, useless thing that has nothing to do with anything you've ever searched for. The feed becomes a mirror, and a mirror can only show you what's already there. So what do we actually do? I want to offer a way of thinking about this rather than a list of steps, because a list of steps can be completed and forgotten. A way of thinking stays. The first question is, how do I feel after? Not during the scroll. During is designed to feel fine. After, when you put the phone down and return to your life, do you feel expanded or contracted? More energized or more depleted? More curious about the world or more anxious about your place in it? Run this test honestly across the accounts you follow. The ones that consistently leave you smaller, unfollow them. Not because they're bad people, because your attention is finite and you have some say in what it does to you. The second question is, did I choose this or did it just accumulate? Most feeds are not built, they accrue. You followed someone 5 years ago because they posted something funny. You followed someone else because everyone else seemed to. You followed a third because unfollowing felt like a social act with consequences. These are very different reasons. Only one of them is actually yours. Go through what you follow and find out how much of it you would choose again today on purpose. The third question is the most interesting one. What is missing? A sanitized feed isn't only a subtraction, it's an invitation. The space you clear is space for something unexpected to arrive, a field you've been curious about but never explored, a thinker who disagrees with you in ways you haven't heard yet, something beautiful that has no utility whatsoever. Seek those things deliberately. Follow them. Let the feed become even slightly less of a mirror and more of a window. I want to be honest with you about what sanitizing your feed does and doesn't do. It makes the time you spend there better, more intentional, less corrosive. That's real and it's worth doing, but it does not change the architecture underneath. The infinite scroll is still infinite. The variable reward structure is still running. The optimization function is still asking every second how to keep you one more moment inside it. A thoughtfully curated feed inside a system designed to consume your attention is, at best, a more comfortable arrangement of furniture. Inside a room, you're still not fully free to leave. I say that not to discourage you. The furniture matters, but to be precise about what we're doing here. This is a first step. The question underneath it, which is about how much of your life you want to spend in these spaces at all, is a harder question, one that takes longer to answer honestly. We'll come back to it. There's a version of your mind that hasn't been shaped by an algorithm. It existed before the feed. It still exists now, underneath the accumulated weight of everything you've been shown. The curiosities that are genuinely yours. The things you find beautiful that no one told you to. The questions you'd be asking if no one was watching. Sanitizing your feed is not, in the end, about the feed. It's about finding your way back to that version of your mind, remembering what it sounds like when it isn't being spoken to. That's harder than it sounds, but it starts somewhere. It might as well start here. Next week, we're going to talk about something more radical. What happens when you go further? When you don't just clean up the feed, but disappear from it entirely. No notifications, no read receipts, no presence. The ghost mode protocol. I'll see you then.